everyone, it's Lexi and today I'm going to be sharing with you all of my favorite contemporary books. I know contemporary is like a genre that people either love or hate, and especially like on BookTube I hear like a lot of people don't really like contemporaries, and I can see why, but the ones that I've recommended here, like my favorites, aren't like the typical mushy-gushy contemporary reads. These ones are like very heartfelt, and I guess they make you think. And I think that's like a good standard to like base these books on. These are the books that really moved me and got me thinking, but they're not really like fall within the contemporary like mushy-gushy romance novels that we typically see. So the first book that's my favorite is Still Alice by Lisa Genova, and this is a novel about a woman named Alice who is a Harvard professor, and she ends up getting early onset Alzheimer's. And this book is about her story of like kind of figuring out that she has her diagnosis, and kind of advances into, and it goes further into her progression and how it advances. And what's interesting about this book is that it's kind of narrated from Alice's perspective, so you can kind of see like the confusion, and like she'll like walk into a room she doesn't remember, it kind of like her internal narration of like her confusion. So that's very interesting as well, and I think like it's a heartbreaking read, but I think it is something that's really relevant, especially in today's society where people are living older and people are getting Alzheimer's. And I think this is a good book that if you're trying to get into like the contemporary field, then this is one that I think I highly recommend everyone else should start with. So the next book that I have is What Alice Forgot by Laine Moriarty, and this is a book that I read this summer, and it's about a girl named Alice who bumps her head when she's at the gym, and she completely loses the last 20 years of her life. Like, she does not remember anything. She remembers being 25 years old, going into her first pregnancy and having this really good relationship with her husband, but as she soon figures out is that that's not her case anymore. She ends up as divorced. She has 3 kids, and it's not the life that she expected she would have. And it kind of gives her a different perspective on like her whole life, and I think this is a very good book. It's very, very gripping. You end up really rooting for her at the end to kind of figure it out. Yeah, like this is just a really good book. I highly recommend it. And it kind of like deals with some things as well. Like, this author is very good at kind of incorporating different things that we may all experience in our life. And like, this book is funny as well. It does have its humor in it. So yeah, I highly recommend this one as well. So the next book that I have is Firefly, Laine by Kristin, and this is a book about 2 girls and their friendship over the course of 30 years. And I know that may sound boring, but it's a very gripping read. It's 2 girls that are completely different, one's very outgoing and just in your face, and the other one's more quiet and reserved, and it just talks about how they first meet and just how their friendship progressed and their ups and downs over the 30 years. And this book was just beautiful, and I think this may not, like, people will look at this and think this would not be something that they would enjoy, but I feel like anyone who has had a very good friendship can relate to this. And especially towards the end, there are elements that everyone can relate to, and you realize some families have had to go through some of the things that the characters has, and it's just an amazing read. And it's really interesting too because they talk about like the 80s style and just kind of the fashion through the ages, so it's really neat to read that one as well. So this one's definitely one of my favorites. So the next book that I have is another one by Kristin, and it's The Things We Do for Love, and it's kind of the story about one mother who is not able to have kids, and this teenage girl who ends up getting pregnant, and kind of how they kind of find each other, and just kind of the sacrifices that they make for one another. And I can't give any spoilers away without spoiling the plot, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I definitely recommend that you pick this one up as well. Anything by Kristin, I think anyone needs to read, everyone should read. So yeah. So the next book that I have is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and this book is about a girl named Lou who does not like stepping outside of her comfort zone. She's had the same job for 7 years. She still lives with her parents. She doesn't want to step outside of her comfort zone. And one day, the job that she's had for 7 years, the coffee shop that she works at, ends up closing down. so she has to find a job. So she ends up getting a job as a caretaker for this guy named Will, who was this rich business guy who was all like adventure seeking and snowboarding and mountain climbing, and one day he ended up getting hit by a car and who is now bound in a wheelchair. So she ends up, while she's working with Will, finds out that he has made a deal with his parents that if he doesn't change his mind in 6 months, he will commit doctor-assisted suicide. So Lou makes it her mission to change his mind, and just kind of, the story overall is just amazing. I really, really enjoyed this book. And although she's trying to help Will realize that his life is worth living, Will kind of helps Lou realize that as well. So I definitely recommend that you pick this one up. I think this is going to be a movie too as well. So yeah, I highly recommend that you read this one as well. So the next book that I have is A Life Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman, and this is about a couple who live on an island, and the husband is a lighthouse keeper, and they have been trying to have kids, but all of the babies have ended up being stillborn when they were born. So one day this little boat washes upon the shore after a storm, and there's a man and a baby in there, and the man has died but the baby is still alive. So they end up taking this baby and telling everyone that it was theirs. So this book kind of revolves around the ethics, and eventually they find out when they go back into the mainland that the mother of the child that they took from the man is still alive. So this book kind of revolves around the ethics of, like, should we give this child back when she's been with us for 6 years and we're all that she's known, or should she go back to her mother? And this book is just heartbreaking. It's really eye-opening. It makes you question, like, what would you do in this situation? Like, what is right, and then what is morally right, and what is right for us? So yeah, I definitely recommend that you read this book. It was probably one of the best books that I read last year. So the next book that I have is Big Little Lies by Laine Moriarty, and this book is about a couple, like a town in Australia, and from the beginning of the book we know that there is a murder. We know someone is murdered at a party at the school, but we don't know who. And this book kind of is like kind of the build up to this murder, and how, like, these lies that they have resulted in this. And this book, like, what makes this book interesting is that every few chapters they do, like, kind of like police reports, and like kind of like the lies that have been webbed, like how people have perceived them and how they believe, like, kind of the event to unfold. So this was a really gripping book. I think it was like over 450 pages, and I finished it within a matter of days. Like, it was just that good. I highly recommend this book for everyone else. So the last book that I have is Someday Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham, and this is written by the person who plays Lorelai from Gilmore Girls, and I just got into that show last year. Like, I was 5 when it came out, so when it came on Netflix I started watching it and I loved it, and I found out that she has written a book, so I decided to pick that one up as well, and I really enjoyed this book as well. I think Lauren Graham was an English major, so you can kind of see, like, her creative writing. Like, she is a very good writer. And this girl, this book is about a girl named Franny who has set a date that if she does not get an acting job by this amount of time, then she'll go back to school and kind of finish up what she started. With that, she'll go, if, like, she doesn't reach her dream, then she'll kind of go back as a fallback plan, and this kind of is everything leading up to it. And you can kind of see how this kind of, it's set in, like, the mid-90s, so it's interesting to see kind of like how, like, if she wanted to call someone, she has to go find, like, a payphone, and, like, the whole thing with, like, the voicemail and the answering machine. That's neat to see, but it's, you can kind of see how this story kind of parallels with Lauren Graham's story as well. So that was kind of neat to see. And also, like, throughout the novel, they have, like the calendar with it, and, like, kind of the scratches of, like, things that are going on, and just like what the character is thinking. I thought that was kind of a neat aspect to add into this book as well, and it's really funny as well. Like, I really enjoyed this one and I was pleasantly surprised. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my contemporary favorite / recommendations. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books or if you have any contemporary recommendations that you think I need to check out. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.